Hello and welcome to Shambhavi Spectrum Marketing Magic Industry Insights. It's so lovely to have Alan and Mandy from Pixel Roses. Makeup and photography is what their website says about them. What do they have to say about themselves? I'm going to request them to kindly give a small introduction, and we could start with the men first. What do you say, Mandy? Alan, can we have some? Please tell me about yourself.
Hi, Shambhavi. Nice to be here. Thank you for the invite to attend this. So I'm Alan Bell. I'm a photographer in Pixel Roses. Been in business a couple of years. I actually spent 30 years in the IT industry until last year when I joined the business full time, which Mandy was already working in from a makeup point of view, but you can introduce yourself in a moment. Yeah.
Right. And Mandy, so you started the.
Yes, thanks, Ravi. Yes, I'm Mandy and I'm the co-founder of Roses. I am the we're both general directors, but yeah, I started in my name as the makeup artist for a company that we decided there would be a niche for. And we're very comfortable within the niche. So as the photography, and we did, the way we came about it was we did a shoot in the UK and the photographer actually had a makeup artist come in and do the makeup for the client, which was me. And when we got back to Dubai, realized that maybe there's a need for this. Alan trained to be the photographer and I retrained myself to be a makeup artist, and we have joined and collaborated together. We're a good team working together in an amazing company.
Wonderful. So Pixel Roses as an organization has been there for how long now? How old is the company?
Yeah, the company is about 18 months old as a business when it was founded. Trading, I would say trading properly. I left the corporate IT world, where I was a sales guy, in July last year to join the business. So we sort of say it's just over a year old. Yeah.
I'm highly tempted to ask you, how did the COVID affect you, but I'm not going to ask that because then our conversation would be only around that. So let me ask you, before 18 months, what were you doing, Alan?
I was in corporate IT sales for in excess of 30 years. But my claim to fame is most information technologies organizations that I've worked for in that time, and there haven't been that many because I usually spent 7 to 9 years with an organization, but most of them no longer exist because IT is very acquisitive. So the last company I was in, where I was been in Dubai for 4 years, and I was with EMC, they were acquired by Dell, become Dell EMC and all its divisions and so on. And companies I've worked for in the past, like Sun Microsystems, Digital Equipment Corporation. Sun was acquired by Oracle a few years ago. Digital was acquired by Compaq, then Compaq itself was acquired by HP. You know, a lot of change in that time. So I was in EMC terms, I was an enterprise sales guy. So I spent a lot of time working in different sectors, public sector, defense, and so on. And yeah, really enjoyed it.
Very interesting thing that you brought up, and by saying that the companies that you worked with have been acquired. Could you tell me something? I didn't intend to ask you this, but it's just coming out that the pricing structures which you were following in the organization, how much or what kind of changes took place when these were acquired by the other organizations? Simple thing like, did it become cheaper or more available, or what happened to it actually?
I think if you go to the Dell merger or tech acquisition of EMC, which was a $67 billion, largest tech merger in history, Dell itself has a reputation for good quality products, but it's low margin, high volume business. EMC also had an excellent reputation for products, in this particular instance, primary storage for banks and big institutions and so on, but very high margin, which you needed to have, because if you were supporting a bank and the systems had to be up 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and so on, yeah, they had to be high quality, highly resilient, and they were actually, in a sense, quite expensive, but gave a lot of value because that's what they were there and designed to do. And you had this dichotomy of a high volume, low margin business acquiring a lower volume. EMC was $20 billion, $24 billion at the time, versus Dell was about 47, something like that, I think. Acquiring a high margin, lower volume company. And the two didn't necessarily sit together. I mean, I'm sure there'll be Harvard Business Studies and various other things about the merger of the companies. But EMC also included other organizations like VMware, RSA Security, and so on. So different metrics, different organization, different cultural views. Yeah, and that's what, in a sense, made it interesting, but also challenging. They do say IT, if you're in IT sales, changes are definitely a constant. But after so many acquisitions, you get a bit fed up. And I think I'd reached that point. Yeah, it was yet another one. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. I'd like to think it was my value that I was bringing that was increasing the shareholder value, which made it acquisitive. But I might be wrong in that.
Of course, yes. Everything always contributes. It's the small drops in the ocean, and I'm sure from your contribution would have been quite high for the kind of experience that you had.
That's very nice of you to say.
Let me shift my gear a little bit to Mandy. And Mandy, would you like to please give us a little bit of a background, how long you've been in the UAE? Your business of makeup photography, Pixel Roses, is 18 months. Before that, were you an entrepreneur? What were you doing?
So I followed in Alan's footsteps to come to Dubai 6 months after he got here. So September was 4 years for Alan, March will be 4 years for me. I didn't come to Dubai with the idea of becoming a makeup artist. It happened. It just happened. And we've gone with the flow with that, because it's actually worked really well for our company, for our new business, the new acquisition that we have. And we work well together. But before that, I wouldn't say I was entrepreneurial. I helped other people with their entrepreneurial brains. So I come from an intellectual property background. I was an IP administrator and assisted clients or customers who had brainwaves, shall we say, ideas to patent something that they thought was patentable. They come up with these ideas. And it amazes me that there are so many people in the world who have these fantastic ideas and patent them. And you kind of sit there thinking to yourself, now, why didn't I think of that? So I take my hats off to people who actually follow their dream. And that's what we're doing now, is we're following our dream.
Before this, I've come across a photographer who's into classical dance photography. And he would do the makeup of the artist himself. And he's created Guinness Book of Record, participated. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Kalijal. And so when I heard makeup and photography, I was not so surprised, because I think usually, even if you go to the studio, a regular studio, to take a passport photograph, the photographer will advise you to touch up yourself. Whether you choose to do it or not is entirely up to you. So in the work professional field, how much contribution comes from towards the makeup side, and for the photographer, how much do you contribute to what the customer wants?
I think it's probably people come to us because of the photography initially. particularly female clients, there aren't many males that would want makeup on, to be fair, in the studio, although Mandy does do some occasional touching up if, depending on skin type, because of the lights, can be quite harsh. But I think it really works well because from a makeup point of view, it's almost like a pamper session as well. So where we get a female client coming in for a corporate branding shoot, for example, they spend an hour or an hour and a quarter with Mandy having makeup done. And by the time it comes to the shoot proper, a lot of people say, oh, we're really nervous. We've never been in front of a camera before, that sort of thing. Yeah, they're so relaxed. We can just get straight into it and start to bring out the personality and what I call their alter ego. Who are they? What are they like? They're the 360-degree view of them, relaxed and at play as well as corporate. And I think the makeup really works well to do that.
What we do is when we get a client coming in for their photo shoot and they are nervous, I take my time. If they're coming in with the full package of doing the makeup as well as the photography, I take my time with them. I saw you raise your eyebrows about an hour and 15 minutes or something. To do some makeup properly, you need to take your time, you spend your time, and it is like a pamper session, like Alan said. It's a pamper session for the client. It helps them to relax, and in that time, I can get a bit of feedback from the client as well. What are you looking for? What kind of look do you want? That kind of thing. And by the time they come to do the shoot, they are then relaxed enough for Alan to direct. And I'm in the studio as well, giving tips and advice on poses, positions, that kind of thing.
Let me now ask you a question related to the professional organization, Pixel Roses. Do you have a division of labor, or do you just take it played by the ear?
I definitely don't do makeup. Apart from Halloween last year when we went out, yeah.
And that was good.
Put some on you, yeah. And I'm definitely the photographer. But having said that, I'm putting some courses together at the moment, or thinking about it, and starting to put something together. Mandy is one of my guinea pigs, so I'm teaching Mandy photography as well, which is an interesting thing to do. Saying the best way of learning is to do, yeah. So and to teach. So yeah, it helps me. But when it comes to other aspects of the business, I think we tend to share the duties. Although Mandy gets social media a lot more than I do, I get very frustrated with so many things. You've got to have a business page and a personal page and this page and that, and I'm just like, why is it so complex? Why can't we just make it simple? It's a bit like IT software. Some of these things just got so complex over time. I was sat there thinking, why do you need all that? And that's the good thing about mobile phones and things, by the way, and the apps. Although it's now gone the other way, that an app gets updated virtually every day. So your phone's constantly downloading data. So I think it's gone a little bit too far, but a lot of those things are a bit simpler to use. So Mandy's good at the social media sort of thing, yeah. So yeah, we ought to be really great at that because we do good content. We just don't use it enough.
So, Mandy, I wasn't really going to focus in this session on social media, but I would definitely like to know a couple of basic things which you do and which platforms you use. How do you track what is going on for the organization? If you could give me a little bit of information on that.
I'm still learning myself, so it is trial by jury, I suppose. What I try and do is not as often as I should do, but is I try and keep posting new images of stuff we've done, feedback that we've had from clients, testimonials, that kind of thing. I try and update our website, update the Facebook page that we've got for Pixel Roses. Alan's more in charge of the Instagram side of things. Those now and then he's like, oh, I've had enough now, you'll have to do it. So then I get hold of the Instagram, LinkedIn. And then I try and do LinkedIn and Instagram between us. We try and work it out.
So I know that.
Sorry, yeah. So, Bobby, just to say, it's interesting that a lot of our business comes from word of mouth. Photography is very much a visual
Sorry, I
medium.
didn't. It wasn't very clear what you said just now. Sorry, the last part
Yeah.
of it. When you said interesting, that's when I lost you.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting because a lot of our business comes word of mouth. So, being very much a visual medium, people see the photograph. So, let's say we did a photo shoot for you, you post it on your social media, people will comment on that and say, oh, who did your photography? And that's how we get a lot of our business is word of mouth rather than spending, we don't have a big marketing budget and so on, but we try and get business by what we do and how we do it in terms of the quality of the work. And we use that to try and differentiate us in the marketplace. So social media for us actually is important, but actually the biggest thing is client testimonials and clients using the images themselves. Yeah.
So you're not going to believe this, but any person from any industry, when I ask them this question, invariably, without my having said anything or prompting them, it comes back to the fact that word of mouth is the strongest.
Yeah.
The customer testimonial is the strongest, which actually makes me want to tell the customers, if the audience anybody is hearing, or if they are customers for somebody and they really love the product or service which they have purchased, that taking that effort of few minutes can make a big difference to the business.
Definitely.
Which you are doing. So that is so important.
It's quite time consuming when you're having to constantly post images or any kind of content. It takes a lot of time. You can get schedules to do it for you on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. But you need the content to be able to fill that schedule up and to post in advance. And this is where we need to, or anybody who's doing it, you need to be able to have the content there to be able to schedule it for future posts.
I think the other thing to add to that, and you've probably had speakers in your podcast and WebExers about this, but my understanding is only generally for most businesses, business results from social media 1% to 2%. 90% is out there selling.
Again, you're lost.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Bad connection. Yeah. We were just saying that.
Yeah. So we just missed out on something, Alan. Could you just say the interesting from where you were saying about that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting in some of the research I've read and so on that social media in business generally accounts for only 1% to 3% of opportunity value, sales value that a business sees. The rest is from selling, marketing, all sorts of other activities, word of mouth, etc., as you say. And yet there's such a focus on having a presence on social media now. I think it can get in the way of doing business. It's almost like we must do social media when actually we might be better off spending time doing active selling or other activities that might generate more for the business.
I would agree with you. And like Mandy said, you need to create content all the time. And rather than focusing on your core competencies of what you're good at doing or upskilling yourself, you're spending so much time trying to update and keep your posts updated. And I think probably eventually you maybe would have to hand it over to somebody else who may or may not feel the same passion for your business the way you do. I think, especially being an entrepreneur, this is what I get the feel. I'm like, I cannot lose control over this. So I've just lost you. Yeah, your video is off now, but yes, I can still hear you.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, it must be a bad connection. Are we back?
Yes, you are definitely. Mandy, tell me more about this is you are new here to this country comparatively. When I think about myself, I'm 30 years old. I know I look like a camel now. So tell me from doing marketing or, about your own business, what do you find anything which is common from where from your past experiences, and what is common and what is different for the people in this particular region?
Actually, I have now sort of gotten more and more into trying to market us, getting us out there on social media. I never thought about this kind of thing prior to actually starting our business. It wasn't something in the front of my mind to do. And it's only sort of working through Pixel Roses and talking to people like yourself or other social media gurus, if you want, PR gurus, who've actually said, to get your name out there, you need to get involved with social media. Even TikTok now is a social media platform, and to get yourself out there, because there's hundreds and thousands of people who go onto TikTok every day. And even if you can just get a little bit of a small percentage of that audience, then you know that you've at least created a target audience. But it is definitely, from my previous time before Pixel Roses to now, I've realized how much more important it is to actually get our name out there on social media. We were saying about it being by word of mouth, but then people want something visual to back that up with. So they're going to go and look at the website, your Instagram, your Facebook, etc. So you need to get out there and get onto the social media. Keep it out there, keep it fresh in people's minds, and keep plugging away at it. If you're not getting any kind of feedback, keep plugging away, because the more that the people see you on their homepage or your homepage, the more it's going to sit in their mind. Oh, Pixel Roses, So it's just about constantly trying to get people to notice you, and it takes a bit of time. But this is where Alan and I divide our times. He sits in one place, I sit in another, and we're constantly trying to do things just to get our name out there and to get noticed on social media.
This brings to my mind that when you're speaking about what you're putting up on social media, invariably it is the end product. Or maybe sometimes we do a recording of our work in progress, right? Do you also discuss the kind of equipment that you have, or, what, like in Mandy's case, maybe the brands of stuff which you are using to put this makeup, or, which, how do you, is that a part of your discussing your business on social media or on any platform, in fact? Do you use those resources?
You answer that.
So when we first started trying to get our name out on social media, and I was doing the makeup for the clients, I would tag all the makeup houses out there, showing that I'm using their product. But they are such a huge conglomerate that, one little piddly person isn't really going to make much of a difference. But we are finding now that the more content that we're putting out there, the more we're actually targeting the correct audience. So we do some creative photography as well. So obviously we're going to hashtag creative photography, Dubai life, photographer in Dubai, Dubai photographer, things like that. It's just trying to, and we are finding that we are getting feedback from them. We're getting a few likes. But the likes itself are not what's important. It's when somebody comments on it, and what you need to do is create a bit of a communication between yourself and the person who has liked your post, and say, well, thank you for that. Hopefully they come back to you, and just a little bit of back and forth and communication.
So the fact that they have access to you directly and you communicate to them makes it that much more customer feels special, which is what every customer wants to feel, or potential customer, whoever it is, they want made feel special when they are purchasing, right, or their pre-purchase decision or their post-purchase decision. They want to feel pampered. I think that was Alan's word, which you used in the very beginning of it. Alan, please tell me more about, you've said this a couple of times and I've saved it for a little later, is the fact about the sales part of it, that you are, I know that you are doing networking and you are a sales expert. So please tell me more about the sales part of it, and what would you advise young graduates or any salesperson, what should they be focusing on with when they are doing selling or marketing?
It's a big subject, but I would say from personal experience, a couple of things. So, yes, I spent 30 years in selling information technology solutions of all different shapes and forms, from a few thousand dirham up to many millions of dirham. You know, in the UK, before I left, I did a $25 million deal into the defence sector. So, you know, done some big projects, but I've done small ones over that time as well. I think leaving the IT industry, and this I think is relevant for people thinking about setting their own business up, try and get yourself ready with a target market that you can identify and approach, and potentially some clients. So when I left the IT industry, I went straight into business, and then I was sat there twiddling my thumbs because thinking, well, now I'm going to do photography. What do I do? Who do I approach? Because none of my existing clients in the IT sector in Dubai were going to be subjects, clients for photography. Yeah. And therefore, I went straight from having a brand behind me of Delhi MC and being able to open doors very easily because of that brand and know a certain market, to having no market at all in a subject that I was relatively new at, but knew I was good at it. Yeah, and we've had to start from scratch. So doing the networking side of things, which is how we met, has been invaluable as a route into trying to identify who our potential clients might be, but also everyone knows other people. And if you know, and we build a relationship as a networking sort of approach, it is a form of selling it, referral networking and so on. It's a form of selling at the end of the day, but it's about relationships. If you know what I do and you like it, and I know what you do and I like it, we can help each other find opportunity. And that, I think, for me is a big thing from a sales perspective. Think about your target market. And you mentioned about COVID earlier and didn't really want to ask the question about it. We were impacted by it because we couldn't do photography in our studio or anything for a few months. So business dried up for us, but we pivoted. We thought about what else could we do. So things like Zoom backgrounds. We're not using Zoom at the moment, but we actually design and deliver backgrounds for people where it's not just a home office. It could be, you know, that's where you saw some of our photography, for instance. We have our logo and brand. And that in itself is a whole topic in itself, how people use Zoom. And a lot of selling going forward is going to be on Zoom now. And how you use that is very important as a communication medium. So I think, you know, a couple of things there that be cognizant of from a sales point of view. And sales is all about numbers. Yeah, my experience is it's your last deal that counts. And even as an entrepreneur, it's the same thing. If we haven't got enough deals coming through and we're not filling a pipeline sufficiently with enough projects coming up, we're going to fail. Yeah. And it puts added pressure on, but that's part of the fun of being an entrepreneur as well. It's one of the key things we've got to do. Most entrepreneurs that, in my experience, forget that. You still got to be doing selling. And that's why a lot of businesses fail. But we're trying to do that and get through it.
So as an entrepreneur, some questions which I want to ask you, some quick ones. How did you come about the name Pixel Roses?
So when we started off, we were going to do a certain genre of photography where we would do a black and white image, but have a red rose in the shot. Yeah. So we always had this idea, pixels because of digital. Yeah. I've never done analog photography. It's always been digital. And the red rose, so roses, was because of the style and genre of photography we were going to do originally. We just put the two together. And I don't think I've heard anyone say they don't like the name. It's different. And also we needed the .com web address as well, and that was available. So,
but also the roses denotes our female clients, because a woman is always likened to a flower. There you go.
So you do social media. You told me you do social media. You have a website, and I know you're doing networking. I know that you're on LinkedIn. Mandy mentioned that you have a LinkedIn page as well. Uh, do you do newsletters and blogs?
So we do have a blog, but it's not active. So I wrote one a little while ago on using Zoom backgrounds. How do you tell if your system is up to writing, working with Zoom from a background point of view for a virtual background? So yes, there is a blog post on our website, but I need to write more, but it's finding the time. But I understand the value that blogs give from a content perspective, and when it comes to sales engine optimization, SEO, and various other things, having that sort of content is ideal. But as an entrepreneur, as you discussed earlier, we discussed, it's finding the time and where do you focus, because you want to do everything all at once and you can't. I think what was the other question? We've got a blog.
Newsletters.
We've just actually put together a brochure for one particular aspect of what we do, which is around personal branding. We're not doing newsletters as such yet. As I get the courses put together for beginner photography all the way through, how you can go from zero income to making, your first sale in 30 days, which is sort of the idea I'm thinking of. Yeah, from a photography point of view, that might be a very good content to start using a newsletter. I'm also aware of GDPR and other things, though, in terms of how do you get people to sign up for the content. So that's something we need to investigate more, because I do have I've got over 500 followers on LinkedIn, but I don't know how many of those would actually be interested in a newsletter. So we've got to approach it in the right way.
So normally I would ask a statement from my whole guest and say, what do you have to tell young budding marketers? But for a change, I would like to ask you, do you think there is something which you would like to ask them? These are marketing students, and of course, our other networking people who I hope will be watching this. Would you like to ask them something about your organization or way forward? Anything which related, which I could check with them and revert back to you? Would you have a question?
I think one thing I'd like to ask, I'm sure Mandy's got her own views on this as well, but one thing I'd like to ask is, if they are looking for images of themselves for branding purposes, for a CV, for LinkedIn or any other social media purpose, what would be their first port of call? How would they decide who to go with to get those images? What would they look for?
A phone, selfie.
Sorry, Mandy. Yeah, I missed the selfie.
Yeah, take a selfie, but that's not very professional. So who would you go to for your professional shoot?
Yeah, so that means in your decision making, what would you be looking at? What are the alternatives you would look, and what would be the parameters on which you would search for this? And
Yes.
We understand very well that money is only one part of it. There are other things which one would look at. So I get your question totally. Let's see how our audience is able to respond to this. And if I have something solid, I will definitely come back to you. Anything which you thought I would ask you and I didn't ask you, Alan and Mandy?
Well, you just mentioned money then, because everyone's got a phone. Yeah, a lot of people are photographers. So in a challenging market, which I think we are facing at the moment because of COVID and the economic turmoil around the world and so on, I think price is important. It is a factor, but for us, it's value and quality are the key factors, because if your image doesn't look right and it looks like it's done as a selfie on a phone and you're using it to get a job, unless the job is specific to being an influencer or something that doesn't mind that image, most corporate employers would not be interested in a selfie on a phone from a CV point of view or anything else. You've got to have good quality images. Images really count. Yeah. For us, we accept that price is important, but equally, I think there's a value for money and the quality of what we do. And you've got to have, in our industry, you've got to have a good eye for a good picture. And that's where we love the creative stuff as well. Yeah, because we love the art side of things. Yeah.
So I was just telling you offline before we started our conversation that the images which you've taken, because I noticed on your website and then I noticed it in LinkedIn with my Connect and in some good magazines. And we also discussed that you're on the inside cover of another book of an author who's on his way to becoming famous, another already established author. So I think the way for you is just straight upwards and forward. So wish you all the very best.
Wish
you all the very best, Mandy and Alan. Thank you so much for spending so much time with me and for coming and sharing your views. And definitely this is a different field and it's going to be of interest for us to watch what happens and how the future is going to happen to us, as well as to this kind of business that you are in, which is digital and changing. And I love the way you've used pivoted your business to Zoom. I wish you would share one virtual background here just to show people, because invariably Zoom virtual backgrounds means you're flowing in and out of it. But right in yours, it's always great. Mandy?
I will certainly try and find a decent one. Let's have a look.
A point on how you do that though is it's a green screen. Mm-hmm. So in Zoom itself and in Microsoft Teams and I think Google Meet and one or two others where you can use these backgrounds, you have the option in Zoom particularly to pick a green background. It could be green fabric, it could be green paper you put on a wall, or a backdrop of pop-up background or something like that. And it's that allows you to then move and you can wave your hand and it doesn't disappear and things like that.
Whereas this one that I'm going to show you, it's not a proper marketing one. This was a fun one that we did for a business women's network actually. But I will show you this and you'll see the difference. We don't have a green screen behind us at the moment, but this will give you an idea.
Nice.
If we move.
Yeah, and it's also great always that the images keep changing when Alan is in the networking event. So you're not only looking at him, you're also looking at the background, and it's always wonderful.
It's an experience thing that we found, that having that as promoting ourselves as Pixel Roses, it's great because we produce pictures, so why not do that in the background, have them just rotating gradually. But it's one every 2.5 minutes. I don't know if you've ever timed it. So it's not distracting, but people occasionally do notice that it's changed. How did he do that? Well, that's a trick of the trade. So I'm keeping that one a secret.
It is wonderful, and it's so amazing to see how you've brought your knowledge from technology to follow something of passion, and how Mandy has found her being an amazing makeup artist and enjoying and telling people, and brought it from somewhere. I think, my dad says is that everyone has 3 careers. So I think possibly you're on to your second one. Is this the second one now?
I guess it is, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so, although we left it fairly late in life to start.
So thank you so very much once more, and I'll say bye to you now. I'll stop the recording.
Thank you.